you all so much for joining us, those who are here in person and those who are going to be watching this on the replay. I really appreciate it. So tonight we're going to be talking about self-compassion, because something that I've realized is, as a parent myself and as someone who has meditation clients, one of the underlying things that tends to create all sorts of layers of issues is a lack of self-compassion in our society specifically. And I found that once we learn how to offer ourselves that self-compassion, it flows to others so much more easily, and then we're able to give it to our children, to our partners. And so that's what I wanted to focus on tonight. We're going to start, if everyone could stand up if you're able. And if you're at home, just go ahead and start doing a little, if you're with your kids, you can do like those silly wiggle dances. We're just going to warm up our bodies a little bit. Oh, it's fine. This is real life. We've got a beautiful little baby here that you might get to enjoy hearing as well. We like that. So, as I said, we're going to begin with a few energetic exercises. These are what I do in the morning. And sometimes I really like to do this while I'm making my pot of tea, when I'm awake before everyone else. But it's also nice when I accidentally sleep in and then my son is waking me up and then we go out and do these together. Kids love doing these. With kids, like, energy is not woo-woo, it's just, they know it's just part of who they are. They don't question it as much as adults do. They don't have all those filters yet. So this is a great way to start the day with your kids, and feel free to make it your own. I was taught these by other practitioners, and I have made them my own, and feel free to just make them whatever feels good to you. So we're going to start with, there's going to be 3 different things that we're going to do. We're going to first start with a release, and this is real fun to do with kids. I want you to just close your eyes for a moment and ground your feet down. Allow yourself to feel the earth below the floor, to feel its energy coming up to you. Mother Earth, is who I refer to her as, is there to receive anything that we're not meant to be carrying. So when I wake up, first thing I like to do in the morning, you can open your eyes if you'd like, is to pretend I've got something here that I know I'm not supposed to be carrying and it feels heavy. And I like to throw it down to Mother Earth. I don't want to see any of this. I want to see like a whoosh. If you're physically able, get it down there. Whether you're actually thinking of something specific or you're just energetically releasing, let it down. And then get over to the left, throw it down, over to the right. And I want you to do that just until you feel very light, like there's nothing left to release. And when you're with your kids, you could have them say what they're releasing if they want. It's nice for them to have a verbal and physical release. How's that feel? Good? All right. After release, I like to open up to receive. Hold your hands out in front of you, and now as you look at them, imagine 2 bright white lights are forming. Imagine them getting warmer and warmer until they're shining out at everyone in front of you. And then we're going to do what would be in yoga Tadasana, but we're going to call it mountain pose. Ground your feet, hands at either side. Imagine those white lights reaching out and growing brighter and brighter, and they're the bottom of a triangle. Your heart is the top of a triangle. So you have a white light here, a white light here, and a white light here. This triangle is getting brighter and brighter and brighter, and the whole thing is this bright white. I want you to stay in this position and close your eyes. Every day I do about 3 minutes of this, but we're just going to do a few moments here. We're going to receive. This might feel different to different people. For me, I'm receiving from Mother Earth, from the divine. I'm preparing myself for any inspiration that wants to come my way for the day. So I'm going to give us here a few moments of silence. Starts to rock, that's a really normal response to the energy moving. If you'd like to try this in your mornings, I'd suggest 2 to 3 minutes of total silence. It's great practice for children to learn to stand in silence. All right. After we receive, energetic exercise, and the final one for the beginning of this will be love. Receiving, sending it out, and embodying it. And what I like to do, because kids love to draw hearts with their fingers, we're going to start right up here on our forehead, and we're going to trace a heart that goes all the way down to your chin, and the point comes down to your neck. And then from your throat, you're going to make another heart and go around and end right at your heart. On the first heart, we're going to say, may I be well, loving, and peaceful. On the second heart, we'll say, may all beings be well, loving, and peaceful. It's one of my favorite mantras, and my son loves to say it with me every morning. I can't really think of a better way to start your day. So if you want to say it with me, you can say it in your heart silently or out loud. I'm going to repeat that 3 times. May I be well, loving, and peaceful. May all beings be well, loving, and peaceful. May I be well, loving, and peaceful. May all beings be well, loving, and peaceful. Once more. May I be well, loving, and peaceful. May all beings be well, loving, and peaceful. How's that feel? Good. I always, when I do these 3 things, I feel this like wash of calm come over me. So I did it to teach you all, but also to help myself just feel really grounded before heading into a little bit more of a practice, dual purpose there. So you can stand or have a seat, whatever's comfortable for you. Thank you for doing those exercises with me. And we're going to start with bringing a little bit of awareness to what we're going to focus on today. We're going to talk about avoiding emotions and what that does in our body. One of my favorite quotes from a book called Good Inside. Some of you may have heard me talk about this book before. And I will be giving you all at the end. I have a list of resources here, and this book and anything else I reference is on my list. So you don't have to worry about taking notes. You can just relax and just enjoy all of this. But in the book Good Inside, it says that when we are avoiding our emotions, it sends off a warning signal in our brain that triggers fight or flight. And it tells our body we are not safe. The same exact thing happens for our children. If we're avoiding their emotion because it's making us feel uncomfortable when they're angry or frustrated or having those big emotions, if we're avoiding it rather than working with them on it, they feel like they are way too powerful, way too big, and everything in them is going off as an alarm. Something's wrong. This is an emergency. So it's not necessarily the emotion they're dealing with that is causing the distress, but it's the avoidance of it. And so that's a really, really important foundation for what we're going to be chatting about today. As far as meditation goes, what's everyone's experience in here with meditation? Is it something you've done a lot of, little bit, or have you never touched it at all, and this is going to be brand new?
I've done a lot of it.
A lot.
Yeah, I've done a lot.
I've done some of it.
Awesome. And if you are a newbie at home and you're watching this, that's okay. The meditations I'm bringing here today are meant for anyone from beginner all the way up to a very well-practiced yogi. So no matter where you're at, you're welcome here. And if you're at home, you can go ahead and find a nice quiet place, dim the lights, and lay down. We can't really do that here. I suppose we could dim the lights, but then you won't be able to see me, so we won't. But if you're at home, take advantage of that and go ahead and dim the lights and find a nice quiet space. And for those of you who are here, if you wouldn't mind closing your eyes. If you want to lay your head down, that's fine. If you want to lay on the floor, that's fine too. We're going to be doing a series of these mini meditations, and we're going to progress each time to bring awareness to what our bodies are feeling. Go ahead and do a few deep breaths. I want you to go in your nose, and once it goes in, I want you to hold it for a count of 3. And then breathe it out your mouth slowly. You're going to do another cleansing breath in your nose. Hold it for 3. Breathe out slowly out your mouth. Good. I'm going to lead you through a visualization. Some people are very visual and some are not. Your subconscious mind will receive this whether or not you're visualizing something specific. No need to worry if you can't visualize this. Just listen to the words. If you are a visual person, I want you to imagine yourself in a beautiful meadow. And in front of you is a hill. You can see the top of the hill. It's a little bit of a walk up, but it's not out of sight. And on top of the hill, I want you to visualize a child. Right now, this does not need to be a specific child. Just somewhere between the ages of 3 and 8. It can be just the energy of a child if you don't see someone specific, or it could be your own child. I want you to visualize that child having a really large emotion. Maybe it's an emotion that makes you uncomfortable. Maybe it's frustration or screaming or stomping, like a tantrum. Maybe they're feeling what we would maybe in our American society call whiny, and they're just feeling helpless. I'm going to be quiet for a few moments to let you just visualize that child and really see what they're experiencing. And now, what we're going to do in response to that child, and this might feel a little uncomfortable or weird, and that's okay. I want you to just walk around at the base of the hill, not looking up at the child. You're not calling out and you're not going up to comfort them. You're actually kind of avoiding what's going on up there and allowing them to deal with it all by themselves. I'm going to be quiet for a moment so you can just see how this feels. Meditation, and we're going to open our eyes for a moment. Can anyone describe to me, it's okay if you can't, but can anyone describe the emotions you were feeling as you were avoiding the child? What did it trigger in your body for you?
Just felt wrong.
Felt wrong?
I felt like I had a hole right here.
Oh, do you all mind if I repeat your answers loudly? So someone said they felt like they had a hole right here. Oh, that's very interesting. Is that a normal emotion for you? That's a really specific, interesting emotion.
Yeah, I don't know. But it's just like it was very strong and it felt like a hole right here.
And it's like over that throat chakra where you're being heard is something's going on there. Thank you for sharing. We're gonna head right back into that place. So go ahead and close your eyes again. And we see this same child, this same being. And now, with your eyes closed, with your finger, you can draw a little bit of a path on this hill to make it easy for you to get up to the top. And we're first going to see the child experiencing this same emotion. This is the same exact emotion they had a few moments ago. And now I want you to, in your mind's eye, walk up that path all the way to the top. Just a quick, confident pace. And when you get to the top, I'm going to offer something that you can say, and then I'm going to be quiet for a few moments. You can use what I say, or you can create your own dialect and be able to have a conversation with the child. If you're new to meditation, you might want to follow what I'm doing, or you might want to create your own. It's up to you. So when we get to the top, I like to kind of get eye level with the child. And what I would offer is, it makes sense that you feel this way. It's okay to feel this way. You're not alone in these big emotions. Your emotions are not too big for me. I am here with you. I'm going to give you a few moments to internalize how this feels in your body. So for those of you who are able to experience that, how did that feel to you? How did that feel in your body? share what I felt. I felt really safe. I felt like even though that emotion was feeling a little bit too big for me, honestly, when I was avoiding it, saying the words, I can handle this, your emotions are not too big for me, it made me believe it. And sometimes when I use that with my son, I'm not believing it as I say it, but I start believing it as I say it. I remind myself and my inner child that I can handle this. Something to take away from this little exercise, and we're going to do it one more time but with a different spin on it, is that that child had the same emotions in both scenarios. And any work that we do, whether it's spiritual or meditative or emotional, whatever it is, it's not in an effort to cancel out hard things. It's not in an effort to change someone else or have them feel differently or not have such big feelings. It's in an effort to keep our own energy, our own pillar, and not pick up the energy of someone else so that it becomes so heavy that we can't be a safe place for their feelings to land. That's the point of all of this. And I like to clarify that because I have seen a lot of work out there that people think they're going to change the world around them. We're not. We're changing ourselves, and in that reflection, it does often result in others changing, but that's not what we're doing it for. So we're going to do that one more time, but this time we're going to make it a little bit more personal. The reason we're doing this is a very specific reason, and I want to share a little bit of a background on our subconscious mind before we do this again. Does anyone know at what age our subconscious mind becomes fully formed? Over what range? Or ish?
Subconscious mind. I know the impulse is about 24. The impulse, like being able to control your impulses is about 24 or so.
Oh.
Fully control it.
Fully, that's a really great point. Like in your 20s, like the impulse control is when you finally maybe get to a point where that's, yes.
But
Yes,
I guess
yes.
like a sense of self around 2. First, you start to develop a sense of self.
Yeah, these are all really good landmarks that you're talking about, that sense of self around age
I
2.
don't know if that's what you were asking.
Yeah, no, well, there's so many, I asked a very broad question, and I like hearing the different ways that it comes out, because there's different levels of this. And as a whole, our subconscious, the part that controls 98% of our day at any given time and as an adult, it's formed from conception all the way through age 8. Conception through age 8, we are forming all of the programs in our mind that are going to run basically on autopilot for the rest of our lives. Good news is that can be reprogrammed, but that's another class. But it's just good to know, 0 to 8, think of your childhood experiences in the womb through age 8. The reason we're created that way is because when you think about humanity way back in the caveman days, way before all of this modern society, ages 0 through 8, children needed to learn how to mimic their parents' survival skills, otherwise they were going to die. That's literally what it was. It was this very primal survival mode that humanity in its conception had to learn to do, otherwise they were not going to be moving on to the next generation. That has never changed, but we've changed a lot. And so we're taking all of the programming up through age 8, and it might look different, it might cycle in different ways, but that's what 98% of our 98% of the time throughout the day, our subconscious is calling all the shots. We're not actually making fully conscious decisions a lot of the time, which is a little bit hard to wrap our minds around. The good thing is that can be rewired, it's malleable, and all of that can shift. But if we just take that concept and we think about the fact that our inner child, our 0 to 8 child inside of us, is the one who is responsible for most of our choices throughout the day. How much time are we spending nurturing that being inside of us, that 0 to 8-year-old? How much time are we spending communicating with that being? That is where I personally believe we can offer the most comfort and compassion, is when we look at that child inside of ourselves. They're usually screaming out for us to hear them. So, with that little background in mind, I love the babies here today. It makes me happy. They're such a good example of everything we're talking about. Like, so with that in mind, we're going to go back to that hill. And if you close your eyes with me, first thing I want you to do before any child appears at the top is make this hill yours. As a kid, what do you want it to be covered in? Is it those dandelions that you can pick them and then blow? Is it a big oak tree? Is it wildflowers? I'm gonna be quiet for just a few moments and allow you to just make this your hill. Okay, now at the top of that hill, I am going to ask you, this might feel a little weird, it might feel uncomfortable, and that is okay, it's normal. I want you to visualize yourself as a child on top of that hill. You're still at the bottom. I want you to create a detailed visual, if you're able to, of your inner child. They would be, generally for these purposes, somewhere between 3 and 8, to give them a conscious memory. I want you to even visualize an outfit you would have worn, what your hair is looking like. I'll be quiet for a moment and allow you to bring that visual to life. Good. And now you can detach from the prior meditation we did and allow this one to be its own. I did the other one first because having it be your inner child right away can be a little bit intense, and I wanted to lead you in slowly in case we have any newbies to meditation here. I want you to allow your inner child to start exhibiting an emotion, a big one. And maybe you think of the one, if you're feeling brave today, make it an emotion that actually would maybe make you a little uncomfortable in real life. I'm gonna be quiet for a few moments and allow you to bring that to your mind. And now, as we did the first time before, this might feel uncomfortable, and that's okay. I want you to avoid the child. Maybe you're walking around, maybe you're walking away, maybe you're just looking down. Avoid that emotion for a few moments. Okay, we can open our eyes and pause. Does anyone want to share how that felt in your body? I'm gonna close the door. At least crack it. There we go. I'm happy to share that for me, it's still racing. That made my heart race, which is usually one of the first signs of going into fight, flight, or freeze mode. Like watching that for me made my heart race. Did anyone else have anything they embodied that you want to share?
I had like a lump in my throat. It's like the middle of my throat.
Your throat again.
Yeah.
Ah, but it wasn't a hole this time, it was a lump.
It was a lump right here.
Interesting. Did it feel like a crying lump or like a blocked? Like something was blocked?
Like blocked. Yeah. Like the.
Yeah, her voice wasn't being heard. It's so interesting that it was the throat for you both times.
I love what you just said, because that is how I used to feel when I wasn't allowed to speak as a little child. Just pain right here.
Oh.
And I guess you named it, it's a lump in my throat.
Yes.
And I didn't feel it right now, but when I thought about it,
Mhm.
that's the feeling I brought back from the past. It was always here. It was painful. You know.
Wow. So as a child, you could feel the physical pain
Yeah.
in your neck.
And if I still get really upset as an adult,
Mhm.
it's the same situation where I don't feel like the message is coming across. I feel it right there.
Mhm. Like not being heard, not being understood.
Yeah, just pain.
Ah.
Pain on my neck.
Our body really does speak to us so strongly, and those chakras are so important. And it's not surprising that that throat chakra is what is coming up for a lot of us here. Not being heard can be such. The babies here are so cute. Hi. Not being heard can be such a triggering feeling. As you maybe have guessed, the pattern is we're gonna head one more time back to this hill. Take a moment and go ahead and make sure it's your own again. If you need to add some flowers, your hands can just create anything you want, because human beings at our core, we are so inventive and creative. All of us are. Create that space again. Maybe even notice a little more detail this time. What can you smell? Can you smell some flowers or some fresh grass? What can you hear? Can you hear some birds? Maybe you can hear a slight breeze and it's blowing some leaves. What colors are there? What time of day? And lastly, is it warm? If there's sunshine out, allow it to just warm your whole body. As the author of this energetic space for yourself, go ahead and draw a trail again, just gently sloping up to the top of the hill. Bring your child there again, your inner child. Allow that child to begin expressing that emotion again. And this time, confidently and quickly walk right up that hill. And this time I don't feel led to lead you on the conversation at all. I'm going to go ahead and allow you. I'm going to be silent. I'm actually going to go off camera and be silent for a few minutes. Take all the time you need, and I want you to have a conversation that would be comforting to you as a child. With your eyes closed. Hopefully by now your child is feeling calmer. One last step we're going to do here is to go ahead, and if your child likes to be held, if they enjoy physical touch, you can go ahead and hold your inner child in a way that feels comforting. Like I always liked my hair rubbed and my back rubbed when I was a kid, so try to go back to that place and remember what felt good to you and what felt comforting for physical touch. And then I want you and your child to be able to relax and look out over this whole vista and just paint it from sitting right where you are. Are there rainbows? Are there mountains? Is there an ocean in front of you? Allow your child to lead this creative space and allow play to take place in this space. I'm going to go off camera again for a minute and just allow you and your child this artistic space. Last step here, I want you to just let your child know that you'll be back often, that this was the first of many, many times together, and that you're just going to go for right now. Maybe you could even tuck them in under a blanket up on that hill, make them nice and cozy, and then you're going to go ahead and walk back down to the bottom of the hill slowly. go ahead and open your eyes. How's your body feeling now? Some nods. Any feelings that you were having, did that kind of dissipate? Any blockages or
It went
pain?
up to like right here.
Oh, interesting. Moved up.
Yeah.
I want to delve into this more off camera. This is interesting to me, these kinds of things. It's like moving up towards your third eye. There's no pressure here. Does anyone want to share any of that experience or anything that shifted in your body? I just like to open up space. Some people like to process verbally. And if not, that's okay. He was experiencing something he wants to share. I hear you, buddy. I hear you.
Yeah, I guess when I was trying to envision myself as a young boy, my like right side, I couldn't see. So I don't know what that.
That is so interesting. Do you mind if I offer a thought on it?
Sure.
So our right side of our body represents all of the masculine energy, and when we're doing inner child work, it often represents a father figure in your life. And the left side would generally represent the feminine energy and a mother figure, whether it was a mom or someone else. And so generally if we're not in a client setting, but if I were in a client setting, I would offer like a further introspection to look into as a child, was there something on the father's side that was preventing you from seeing something clearly, or that was maybe involved in
My
blocking
stepdad.
this exercise?
My stepdad came into play around that age, and from my perspective, he definitely has some dark energy around him, and like I felt unsafe with like talking because I was a crybaby or like this and that, so I was always put down,
Yeah.
even if I wanted to share.
Oh
You
man.
know, like that. It's hard.
That is hard.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I'm sorry you experienced that. That's really difficult.
Yeah.
Is it okay if I offer something to consider when you're in some space by yourself that you might want to offer to your child?
Sure.
Is maybe returning back to that space and having a conversation about that very specific theme in your life with your child. And this makes me really emotional even in client sessions, and when I'm face to face, and I don't apologize for my emotions, but I'm just acknowledging them. Allowing yourself to be that father figure for your child that he so desperately needed and deserved, and being that really soft place for those emotions for your inner child to land. I believe we can full circle heal those wounds. I don't believe that we have to carry them. They're still part of who we are. They're an important part of who we are. But I believe we break generational cycles with our children when we become that person for our inner child, because no one can take that from you. Nobody can override that, talk over it. That is your space alone, and it's so empowering. Does that make sense?
It makes sense.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. It's really beautiful. Thank you. Anyone else want to share anything?
I went right back to my neighborhood where I grew up. And it's been so many years I haven't been there. But that's all I could think of. It's just, and the hill, it wasn't special. It was just, one of the places where I could see going around the neighborhood. And my little me was running. When you said that we could play, little me was running. Running around.
I love seeing that. How did it feel for you, even those we didn't have very long, it was maybe 1 minute. How did that play together feel, the freedom to do that in a space where maybe, was that possibly shut down?
No,
at
it was
times?
open.
Oh, good.
I'm just saying, it's not like this beautiful hill that I could have imagined, but it was just one of the hills I had, and I was just running through it, holding hands.
It sounds so free.
Yes.
Oh, I love that. Thank you for sharing. Oh, thank you all for sharing. It's such an honor and privilege when people share those deep places, especially because you don't know me. So thank you. I really appreciate it. That's a really powerful space, and I'm going to reference it at the end as one of our tools, because we're going to head in just a moment into, okay, we've brought awareness to all this. Maybe we're feeling all these emotions, so what the heck do we do in the moment when we're triggered by all of this? And we can't stop and do a 20-minute meditation or put on, one of my meditations or talk to a counselor. What do we do in the moment? That's what I've focused on heavily the past year with my clients, because I feel like, especially for parents, everyone needs this, but especially parents with children that are still at home, we're usually in the moment being triggered. We don't get to like, okay, I'm gonna go close my door and put on meditation, no one bother me for an hour, and then I need an hour to like come down from that and maybe just have a cup of tea. That's not reality. So what we're gonna move into next is, we're feeling all these big emotions, what do we do in the moment? As I head into that, I want to give a really brief background, because I didn't do it in the beginning, of where I come from as a parent and a practitioner of this work. Because I think it's easy when I sit in a class or a workshop and someone's up front, I'm like, dang, they have figured it out. Like, they probably have no tough days. They seem so peaceful. They're probably just like walking around like this all the time. And it makes me laugh to even like say that jokingly. I feel like I come into this work bringing the difficulties that I'm going through, and they tend to resonate with the people I'm with and with my clients. Meditation doesn't create a space where there aren't issues. It gives us the tools, as I said before, to be our own energetic space and not be constantly on the roller coaster of our children or our partner or our parents or whoever, but keeping our energy contained while still having healthy, interdependent, loving relationships. So these are going to be some tools to get there. And I felt really led to share this, although it doesn't specifically apply, but I felt led to share just a minute of my background as a parent. My husband and I have been together for 18 years. I have a 4-year-old, and I decided 10 years ago I definitely did not want children. So, you can imagine my surprise when 5 years ago, against all odds, I was pregnant. And 9 months, let me tell you, it was not enough time for a person who had never read a parenting book, had never dreamed of being pregnant, and had never felt that urge that a lot of women feel. And so for 9 months, you'd think I'd be preparing and excited and talking. I was just full on freaking out for 9 months. I did not head into parenthood this like peaceful being ready for it. And birth was a huge challenge, and so were the first while of my son's life. I dealt with a lot of really intense postpartum depression, anxiety. I went to a dark place that I had never been to in my life. It was very unfamiliar and very scary. And honestly, about 3.5 years ago, I just didn't even want to be on this earth anymore. Too much felt out of my control. I had went from running 3 businesses and just traveling all over the country with my husband, total time freedom. Like 99% of my time was whatever I wanted. To go from that to being a mom when I didn't plan on being a mom, it like shattered my whole world. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way to my son. He is literally the most joyful thing in my life now. But it was very hard. And I have found that just about every parent experiences this on some level. Mine was certainly extreme, but I haven't met a single person that didn't have some moments of this. And so I guess maybe that's why I'm sharing it, because feeling alone in that, it's very stigmatizing, it's very dark. And I felt alone in it for a long time. And once I just started talking about it, I didn't know what to do. I just started talking about it. And all these people came out of the woodworks. And at that time, I was a client of meditation. I was a client of this subconscious healing work. And that's when I felt empowered, and I was like, wait, I know more than I think I do. And I have a gift because I can feel things in people when I'm not even trying to. And I was like, I think I'm actually meant to be doing this work, not just receiving it. And so 3 years ago, a little over 3 years ago, I started my meditation business and working with clients and doing this subconscious healing work. And all I was always doing is this. It's providing a space for people to do their own work. Someone could sit here and get nothing out of this, or someone could sit here and you could have a life shift that impacts the rest of your life. That's how powerful this work is. And I came to it because it saved my life. I really believe that with all my heart. And so as I'm here bringing this to you, I'm not coming from a place where I always consciously knew it. I came from a deep, dark place where it brought me into the light, and it gave me, I think more than anything, it gave me this really deep sense of self-love and self-worth and self-compassion. And once that's in place, that's where my inner peace and joy came in every day, even through really hard circumstances. This past week was a really hard week as a mom. I had probably the hardest day in my recent memory last week, and at the end of the day I was like, I shouldn't even be teaching this workshop on Monday. I am such a fraud. That's literally what I thought. And then my closest girlfriends were like, you're exactly who should be leading that workshop, because every other parent has days like that, and you're not someone who doesn't have those days, and you should tell them about those days. So I was like, all right, I'll include that. So that's why I'm sharing all of that. I like to remove the stigma of how incredibly difficult it is. And even if you're a parent who, like, I really work on being respectful and gentle. And I raised my voice at him the other day, and I was just so impatient, and that's okay. I was going through a hard time, and guess what? The next day, I went and had a really long conversation with my inner child on the hill, and I have been so much better ever since. And it's always, to me, it's always goes down. If you just get to the deepest root of what's going on, your inner child is asking you to please listen to them. And that's, for me, is the core of all of this. So, the last thing we're going to do is I'm going to give you a few tools that I really hope are going to help you when you're in the moment and triggered, and you don't have time to go do something long and drawn out. If you're able to stand up, if you're not, that's fine. And if you want to stand up and move, that's fine. If you want to sit, that's okay too. Just giving you an option here. I like to move when I'm doing these. So my very first step that I like to do anytime I'm feeling triggered, and it's good if you're not aware of what your triggers are, like when you're feeling triggered, what happens, I've noticed, maybe start to bring some awareness to this. Lights feel very bright to me and noises feel way louder than they are. That's when I know I'm triggered. Everyone has different ways that our body speaks to us. So maybe if you're not aware of your triggers, this could be a good time in your life to just start bringing awareness to, okay, what am I feeling in my body? I'm not going to judge it, but what's physically happening in it? So right away when I'm triggered, I like to take, we're not going to punch ourselves, but you're going to make a fist. And then you're going to find your sternum bone. When you tap this, not like this, but like this, it starts to wake up your emotional nervous system. I'm going to be talking funny, so I'll stop doing this, but you keep doing it, please. Give it a nice hard tap, hard enough that you're like, ooh, I feel it, but that it's not hurting. And just keep doing it. And if you're watching this on here, you're going to go right where your clavicle bone is, just below that. You should start to feel it almost like vibrating in your heart. As you're doing that, you're feeling triggered, I want you to ask yourself, you can ask this out loud or in your mind, whose emotion is this? Who does this belong to? It's my favorite question. If I can give any parent one question, it's this. Who does this belong to? Okay, you can stop. So often in the morning, it's always the morning for us. I'll be making breakfast, I've got like some classical music on, I've got my oils going, I've done yoga and woken up early. I am like, I'm good. I've done some salutations to the sun. My son gets up, and I'm just going to use a specific example from last week. And you can remain standing if you want, just because I feel like it's the time of day where maybe we need to be, but if you want to sit, that's okay too. It's totally up to you. My son was doing a puzzle on our table, and he got frustrated, and he started screaming, and he threw some pieces. And I was like, okay, there goes a nice peaceful morning is what I'm thinking, you know, not being a safe, soft space for his emotions. But then I stopped. And I'm facing the stove cooking, and I just started doing this, and I said, whose emotion is this? I said it in my mind. And I was like, this is his anger. I just picked it up. I'm carrying his anger for him. So I don't do this yet verbally with my son, because I think for a 4-year-old it would be confusing. If you have an older child who you think would understand, and you're teaching this to them, you could definitely be doing it out loud with them. I do talk to my son about it a little bit, but I'm nervous about him feeling like he's going to be responsible for my emotions. So I do this a little bit more on the DL, but he sees me doing this, and he knows it means I'm having a little bit of a hard time usually when he sees me doing this. So what I like to say is if I recognize immediately that I've picked up someone else's emotion, which is about 90% of the time. 90% of the time, it's not actually my anger or frustration that's rising up. I've picked his up. I'm an empath. That's what empathic people tend to do, and it's what our society actually trains us to do in a lot of ways, which isn't good. And so what I say is, this is Simon's anger. Again, I say this in my mind. Simon, I'm returning this anger to you with love. I'm going to be here for you. I'm going to be a soft space for your anger to fall, but I can't carry it for you. It is your emotion. I'm here to hold space, but I can't hold your emotions for you. That's what I say in my mind. And I usually feel it going away. And I'm like, wow, okay, cool. That wasn't my anger. I'm good. And my son has started to ask me when he sees me doing this. He says, what are you feeling, Mom? And I stop and I'm like, I actually feel really good. I'm happy. I'm having a great day. How are you, bud? And then he'll tell me, well, I'm feeling angry about this, and then I can come over and I'm a safe space. It's more for my own mental calming me down. So that's the first thing. 9 times out of 10, that actually stops the fight or flight mode for me right there, and I'm able to kind of come down and offer him some compassion. But what I'm really doing in that moment is giving myself space to recognize if it's even mine. Now let's say I've had an argument with my partner that morning, and I am just ticked off. It's not Simon's emotion, he's fine, and I'm just like angry as heck, and I do this, and I'm like, whose emotion is this? Mine. No. Whose is it? No, it's mine. No, I want it to be someone else's. I don't want to have anger right now. That's really inconvenient. We have a lot to do. Okay, still mine. All right, my emotion. Then I go to one of two ways. I'm going to give you both options, and then we'll be finishing up and just opening up for conversation. One of my very favorite things to do, and I will do this with my son, and if my anger truly has absolutely nothing to do with anything he has done, and I'm just feeling upset, I like to share with him, I'm feeling really overwhelmed right now. I have so many things in my mind, it feels too big for me. I'm going to do a little bit of tapping. Are you all familiar with tapping? We do. Have you done it at all? Oh, I love when we have new people introduced it to. That's great. Are you familiar with tapping? Okay, cool. So for those of you where it might be new, you can look up, definitions on it. But in a brief way, tapping is taking the points of, are you familiar with acupuncture?
Yes.
It's taking the points of acupuncture and not using needles, because that wouldn't really be convenient in the moment. It's just using our fingers to tap on specific points. I'm doing them right now. And what we're doing is sending a message to our body to help rewire in the moment. And tapping generally starts out with acknowledging the limiting belief that we're struggling with, whether it's like, I can't get over this anger, this is going to take over my whole day, whatever that is, and then starting to move towards a belief that is filled with abundance and not limiting. And what happens in those moments, it sounds silly. I remember the first time I did it, I was like, this is dumb. Like, what are we doing? I was like, this is so silly. And then at the end of it, I was like, oh, I feel better. What happened? It's a very quick way, and it brings your child into what you're experiencing, and they see you handling dysregulation in a healthy way. Every time I'm dysregulated, I think, wow, this is a great opportunity for Simon to see me handle this in a healthy way. There's nothing wrong with my feelings. All of them are okay. So we're going to do a 4-minute video from one of my favorite practitioners. And if you're watching this back, you're probably not going to be able to see or hear this clearly. So I will tell you what I'm pulling up so that if at home you want to just skip through this and you can play your own when you get home. If you go to YouTube, and I have this on, for all of you, I have this on our resources page for here. But for those of you at home, if you go to YouTube and type in Forgiving Yourself, Tapping with Brad Yates, that is the video that we're going to do right now. The reason I chose Forgiving Yourself is because underneath a lot of what's going on with parents is this deep desire, I believe this anyways, this deep desire to forgive ourselves for all the mistakes that we make, because we're going to make a lot of them. And it's my default video. If I'm not really able to identify exactly what's going on because I'm feeling so overwhelmed, starting with self-forgiveness is usually a really good place to start. So I'm going to go ahead and face him and come over with you all and do this video together. It's 4 minutes, 52 seconds, and then we'll do our last tool. I like this guy because he is just, well, my son really likes him, so that's the first thing, but he's just always very straightforward and calming to me. And he has every topic you could think of for tapping. Can you guys see the angle of this okay?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Some things that you're not forgiving yourself for, and how's that working for you? Chances are it's not doing you or anyone else a lot of good, and so let's see if we can do something about that. Taking full responsibility for your own well-being. Even though I can't forgive myself,
You can feel free to say this out louder in your
I
mind.
choose to love and accept myself anyway. Even though I can't forgive myself, I choose to love and honor myself anyway. Even though I can't forgive myself, at least not completely. Because I have all this programming that says I'm not allowed to forgive myself. And even though I can't forgive myself, I choose to deeply and completely love, honor, and accept myself. And anyone else who taught me to be so unforgiving of myself. myself. Because they were doing that to themselves too. This inability to forgive myself. I can't forgive myself. I won't forgive myself. It would be wrong to forgive myself. All this fear I have that if I forgive myself, I'll just do more wrong. All this belief that withholding forgiveness is how I keep myself in line. Except that when I do bad things, it's because I'm feeling bad. And not forgiving myself keeps me in a place that's not so good. Maybe it's possible that forgiving myself could be one of the best things I could ever do for myself and others. All these blocks to forgiving myself. All these reasons for not forgiving myself. I choose to clear these at a cellular level. Clearing them all the way back through my past. Back through all the times that I learned to be unforgiving. When did that ever really work for anyone? When did that ever bring peace and or happiness? I choose to cultivate peace and happiness. And forgiving myself helps that. I'm allowing myself to forgive myself. I'm giving myself permission to forgive myself.
If you're comfortable with this, say this next part out loud, please.
I'm allowing myself to feel more peace in body, mind, and spirit.
In body, mind, and spirit.
Take a deep breath. Thank you for setting yourself free to do more good.
All over the earth, God is raising up a new breed of.
I keep getting that advertisement and I don't know why. How did that feel, tapping? Curious how, if you don't mind me asking, for the first time of doing it, how did that feel for you? Did it feel weird or?
I mean, not something I would go to by myself, so interesting.
Yeah.
Different. I feel though that it kept me present, so I couldn't, like, my mind would wander. And what he said is so powerful. More than the tapping. The words, oh my gosh.
I agree.
Deep. Beautiful.
I really like the part where he says, and he brings it, it's so far back to, like, because they did that to themselves too. He brings in, just in a kind of quiet way, that compassion for the person who taught you to be this way, because they were doing their best. That's what their best looked like. Sometimes that's kind of sad, but it's true. I personally believe all human beings are doing their absolute best with their current programming, their personality, and their circumstances. We can shift some of those things, but what we're doing is always our best. And there's times we look at our best and be like, that needs to change. But it's still okay, because it's still our best in the moment. And our parents and those who raised us, they were doing their best too. The last tool I have to offer you all today, thank you for hanging with me this long. It's been really, really enjoyable. It doesn't require any technology. I like this because I like to be able to bring my son into the moment usually, and this at home works really well for us. But maybe you're out and about, or maybe you're somewhere where you don't have Wi-Fi or whatever it could be, and you need to be able to do something just by yourself. So I'm going to offer 2 ways to do this, because maybe you're a visual person or maybe you're someone who's a writer. I have some clients who, they can't just in the middle of the day go in a bathroom, close the door, and visualize something. I can do that. I've always been able to. But I'm learning that's like a personality thing. And so for some people, they want to be able to write, and that's the way they can get that energy out. So the first one would be just a visualization. I'm just going to lead you through like a 1 to 2 minute version of it. And you already have the background from earlier. So let's say you're feeling really triggered. The bathroom is the parent's secret safe space. It's the place we can go and close the door and maybe have an excuse for two uninterrupted minutes, or maybe not, depending on the stage of your children. But I always call this like the bathroom meditation, because that's usually the place we can go. So you imagine you're feeling incredibly triggered. You feel all your fight, flight, or freeze mode going up in your body. Go into your bathroom, close the door, go ahead and close your eyes, turn the light off in the bathroom if you can. Nice deep breath in. And then make your mouth hole so small that as you blow it out, it has to go slowly. Bring that hill that we were just at in front of you. Quickly give it with your hands, just create a few trees, flowers, make it your own quickly. You'll start to know this space if you continue to choose to go back to it, and you don't even have to do this step. Bring your child to the top. They can just be sitting there, or they could be experiencing your emotion. That's up to you and how you want to process, but all that matters is that your child is there. It's important at this stage to feel just what Mother Nature is doing around you in this space, and just allow yourself to feel and smell and hear a little bit of it. Bring the sunshine if you want sunshine and warmth. Allow that to flow over your body. Smell the flowers. Bring all of your senses into this. Give your child an age. Dress them in something you would recognize. And then walk up the path to them. And you can have a conversation with them here. I often do. But do you know what is so powerful? Just that physical touch. Holding your child in a way that makes them feel safe. Giving them a few moments to play and create. Allowing that space to be whatever it is that you need in that moment. Maybe you need the release of just play, and maybe you're doing Ring Around the Rosie or climbing a tree. Maybe you need the creative space to be able to just paint some rainbows, some clouds, some mountains with your fingers. Maybe you need silence and just hold them. There's not a certain formula here. Trust your instincts, and trust your inner child to know what they need. Ask them what they need. And listen. Let them know you'll be back as soon as you can for a longer time. And then you can walk back down your hill, open your eyes, and go back to your day. That has never failed me. Never once. Because at the very least, I'm not avoiding the emotion I'm feeling. And that immediately makes me feel not alone in that emotion. Remember, it's not the emotions we're feeling that are actually triggering a spiral into a terrible day, which is what I had last week, because I avoided my emotions all day. And then at the end of the day, I was like, what are you doing, Nora? You've pushed them down. And it's triggering that signal in my brain that there's an emergency here. Someone's avoiding my emotions. Emergency, emergency, emergency. I can't even bring that rational part of my brain to work. When we're in fight, flight, or freeze, the part that is rational and clear actually can't function. And so the way we would normally interact with our children, it's gone. We're just in complete emergency mode. And a lot of people live that way and don't even realize it. So bringing awareness, and again, if you're not a visual person, I recommend getting a little notebook. I have clients who just always have it in their bag or in their pocket. And if you are a writer, write to your child. I hear you. I see you. It makes sense that you feel this way. It's okay that you feel this way. This is so frustrating, isn't it? And a really fun thing if you've never done it. Did you know that using your non-dominant hand is actually, they've shown that it brings out your inner child's words? It's really cool scientifically what happens. When you write with your non-dominant hand, not only does it look like a 3 or 4 or 5-year-old wrote it, but I am shocked in sessions what comes out of myself and clients when when I switch hands, and I'm like, oh, I didn't even know that was in there. This is a little scary. But they start talking to me, and it's very interesting. So if you're more of a writer and not a visual in the moment because it's feeling too overwhelming, keep a notebook with you and allow that to just be your private space to write to your child, have them write to you and write them back, so you can still be communicating with them throughout the day. And that you don't need a phone or anything for, and no one else has to be a part of it. No one has to even know you're doing it. We call it like, me and one of my coworkers, we call it like ninja meditation, where it's like I'm going to the bathroom and no one knows I'm doing it. Or if I'm just like standing there with someone and they have no idea I'm feeling triggered by them, I'm like, take your emotions back. These are yours. These are not mine. I've done that a lot in conversations, and I can stay calm when someone is maybe acting in a way that would trigger me. I'm like, guess what? I'm not picking any of that up. That's all right in front of you. You got a heavy load to carry. It's not mine. So doing these little things throughout the day can help you stay present with yourself. That's all I've got for today. I have a little resource sheet. And for those of you who are watching this on the playback, what I'm going to have you do is I'm going to right now read my email address off to you, if that's all right. And if you want this list, because I can't read all of this, it's not going to translate well.
we could also post it in the notes on YouTube.
Oh, good.
We could upload it.
Way better. Okay.
We can do a link to the video.
Exactly.
Perfect. Okay. We will link this for you so that you're not left out of the resources. And I'm going to go ahead and pass these resources. If you've been watching us on the replay, thank you so much for being here. I really, really appreciate you sharing this space with us.
Thank you, Nora.
Thank you. So here's a bunch of resources. These are compostable, this compostable paper. I'll give everyone an extra in case you have someone that you think would enjoy these resources, then you have them.
Thank you.
Yep. And they're pretty self-explanatory, but the YouTube tapping was Brad Yates. The podcast, Erin Jean is someone that I've worked with. She started out as a client of mine, and then now we lead retreats together. She's written a book. She has a podcast. This kind of work is her jam on her podcast. And then for books, Good Inside is a book that I just think everyone in the world who has a child should read. It's based on that principle of our innate goodness. And it really gives us a lot of scientific information on what to actually expect from a child. Like my 4-year-old has all of the big emotions, and he has the ability to produce the biggest emotions of any being on earth, but he currently doesn't even have this scientific ability yet to manage and filter those emotions, so his outbursts make sense, you know? And once we can bring that, it helps us to have a lot of compassion. Something on here that might seem out of place is Braiding Sweetgrass. Has anyone heard of that book? It is, I think it's a book that could just change the world, and so I include it in any resources. I have found a lot of comfort in Mother Earth, and it's helped me with my steps in self-compassion because Mother Earth will always be there, and I find that she supersedes any religious or spiritual beliefs. She's there for all of us. And so I found that Braiding Sweetgrass brings us to a place with Mother Earth that, like, if I am feeling like no one around me is there for me, I can go hug a tree and I get to feel that, like, love and support from my Mother Earth. And that's what that book did for me. So I just recommend it to everybody that I meet. And the last resource is my email. If you want to connect with me, I'll be leading a retreat here locally. Don't have the date yet, but I'm working on it. And if you want to be on a list to hear about retreats or like future inner child work, I'm going to start working locally with clients and doing what I call yogatation, where we take your own personal journey you're going through and combine it with yoga and meditation and do sessions together. So if you want to connect on any of that, you can send me an email.